Hi everybody, I'm Art. Thank you so much for tuning in. Professional scapegoat here with 40 years of experience in the field of it's all my fault, and naturally the family's official evil demonic child. I promise I'll try to control my naturally evil resting face. But let's put the sarcasm aside for a second and get real for a moment. We're going to talk about emotional abuse today and the signs that you need to look out for. Because if you don't learn to trust yourself and detect the signs, emotional abuse can dangerously distort your sense of self. The part of you that tells you what's real, what's safe, who you can trust. Emotional abuse is one of the most invisible and painful forms of abuse. And it's precisely because it's invisible that it's so damaging. When you don't recognize it, when you miss the red flags, or maybe you did notice the red flags, but you're so emotionally invested that you feel frozen, and then you doubt yourself. You may begin to believe that you're the problem, that you're the abusive one, that your reactions are wrong when you're being emotionally abused, that you're a terrible human being for existing. You may even question if what you're going through is actually abuse. And so you will drain yourself completely trying to fix a relationship that you didn't break in the first place. And the hardest part is that many people won't realize that this is happening to them until they're deeply invested in a relationship. The cycles of emotional abuse will keep you questioning yourself. Am I the problem? Am I the abuser? Am I bad? Maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe they didn't sleep well last night. Maybe I should be more careful around their triggers. Or even better, maybe they had a really hard life, and so they're allowed to be mean and hurtful towards you because of their hard life and their hard past. And if you really love them, if you were a better person, you would just take it stoically and take one for the team without complaining. But when you are in an abusive relationship, the jabs don't stop. They just keep coming towards you. And every time they cut deeper and deeper and deeper until you're left with a shell of who you really are. You don't even recognize yourself anymore. And if you grew up in a narcissistic family system like I did, you will have been trained to feel guilty for existing. Emotional abuse can cause post-traumatic stress disorder, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. You might have anxiety, depression, chronic shame, panic attacks. The stress can even make you physically ill, headaches, gut issues, insomnia. You may find yourself people-pleasing just to stay safe or dissociating just to survive. Emotional abuse doesn't just hurt your feelings, it reshapes your body and your mind and your entire sense of self. This is the type of abuse and trauma which outsiders, friends, enablers and the family will often downplay. They will brush it off, they'll call you too sensitive, they will call you emotional, and they will tell you to get over it. But the studies are showing that emotional abuse, especially during childhood, can leave deeper trauma wounds than physical abuse. And I don't want to speak for everybody here, of course, we all have our own experiences, but this has definitely been my own personal experience. It's very difficult to heal from emotional abuse, and it takes years and years and years because they basically dismantled you from the inside completely. They completely dismantled everything about you, and you have to basically rebuild yourself from scratch. And that's why today I'm going to break it down into the subtle signs of emotional abuse that you should never ignore. Starting with the silent treatment. Now, the silent treatment says you don't exist. But the silent treatment is not the same as taking space. So let's just clear that up for a second first. If you need a break because there's a disagreement or a fight, it's actually healthy and sometimes necessary to walk away from the situation, and for the other person as well. If somebody is triggered and they need to step away to calm down, that's a good thing, okay? And it's healthy for both parties to step back and calm down and then resume the conversation a little bit later. The silent treatment is also not the same as firewalling, okay? And this means creating firm, intentional limits to protect yourself, like deciding what kind of contact or conversations or behaviors you will not allow in your life, okay? So blocking an abusive family member from having access to you, refusing to engage with gaslighting messages, this is not the silent treatment, okay? This is you protecting yourself and doing what's best for you. When it's about self-protection and healthy boundaries, managing a trigger so that you don't hurt the other person, and you decide to have this conversation later when you're calm, this is healthy, this is okay, and this is actually what we're all supposed to do. Now, stonewalling, the silent treatment, on the other hand, is a punishment designed to hurt you, to make you beg. The silent treatment is very different from setting a healthy boundary. It's silence with no end, meant to punish and control and manipulate you. For example, you get the silent treatment for setting a boundary, for taking care of yourself, for not paying attention to the other person when they want attention, at the snap of their fingers, for not magically reading their mind, or maybe you're having fun without them, or maybe you disagree with them, or maybe you just get the silent treatment for existing, for existing in a way that they can't control. That's the key here. And you can get the silent treatment for being happy, and because they don't want you to be happy if they're not happy. You can get the silent treatment for breathing wrong in their presence. The silent treatment is designed to hurt you and manipulate you into compliance. And so for children, if it happens to a child with a narcissistic parent, it feels like it is abandonment. The message becomes, if you mess up, you lose love, you lose safety. You're not loved by your own parents. Your parents are rejecting you for making a mistake. Love is based on your performance. In adult relationships, this creates a huge power imbalance because the other person knows that you love them, and so they will use that to their advantage and make you feel bad and manipulate you through this silence. When they give you the silent treatments, you can become desperate to reconnect with the person that you love. The pain for being given the silent treatment can be so unbearable that you can end up apologizing over and over and over just to break the silence, even though you did nothing wrong. And you may even cave in and stop doing the things that you love doing just because you want to avoid the silent treatment. So you'll stop paying attention to your friends while your partner's in your room. You'll stop taking time for yourself because you have to take care of them. You will make sure that you no longer do the things that you love because they expect you to be home with them and cater to them. And over time, your self-worth can completely erode, and you can find yourself not in the role of a partner, but an emotional servant. So again, do not confuse healthy boundaries and taking healthy space with silence designed to break you. Number 2 is they will mock what matters most to you. And in the beginning, on the surface, it can just look like teasing. Oh, it's so cute, you're trying to bake again. Can you actually try and make it taste good this time? Ha ha ha, Oh, you're wearing that? You really think that looks good on you? Meditation, yoga? What do you mean? Oh, like you're a guru now? Another book? Are you trying to prove that you're smarter than everybody else? And so on, So initially you may just laugh it off, change the subject, shake it off, but over time you may actually start to slowly withdraw from the things that you love. So mocking your friends, your hobbies, your passions, it sends a message that what you care about is stupid and worthless. And in adult relationships, mocking becomes a tactic of control and isolation. A partner will make fun of your music tastes, will make fun of your hobbies, will dismiss your friends as losers, and slowly, bit by bit, you will start to withdraw from the people that you love, from the activities that once gave you strength. Not because you lost interest, but because you don't want to be made fun of. You don't want to be ridiculed. And slowly you actually begin to feel stupid for loving what you love. And of course, if you're a child growing up in this type of environment, this will plant deep, deep, deep shame. Like, for example, if a child shows a drawing to a parent that they're really proud of, and the parent just thought, that looks stupid, what is this, So the child will learn that sharing their excitement, with their caretaker will lead to ridicule, not warmth. And so over time, joy becomes unsafe. You start feeling unsafe just for being joyful, just for sharing the things that you love. Number 3 is the accumulation of small lies. Small, tiny little lies here and there that start to twist your reality. It can often start with trivial stuff. Where they were, what time they came home, what was said in a conversation. And the point isn't the details themselves, but it's the erosion of trust. So, because when you hear that never happened, that's not how we discussed it, you're paranoid, you're imagining things. You actually start doubting your own perception and your own memory, and you start thinking to yourself, okay, well, maybe it's me, maybe I didn't see it right, maybe I can't really trust myself, maybe I'm being too possessive, maybe I'm being too pushy. But those small little lies that they put here and there may eventually grow and become full gaslighting. And your reality will become distorted, and you will begin to rely on their version of events instead of your own. So you basically are conditioned to not trust yourself anymore, and you only rely on on their version of reality. Number 4 is nitpicking everything that you do, expecting for you to be perfect. Nothing is ever good enough. The way you talk, the way you fold towels, the way you set the table, the way you sit, the way you sneeze, everything is criticized. The music you listen to, And over time, you learn that love is based on performance, and if you don't deliver what they want, the perfection that they want, you will be put down. So you have to, the entire relationship is basically you walking on eggshells. And eventually, even the smallest things that you do, everything starts feeling like a trap, and you become paranoid. You'll be like, okay, I better do this right. There's always this anxiety. I better do this right, because if I don't do this right, I'll be criticized and I'll be destroyed. So you're constantly on this high alert. And you can also start feeling like you can never do anything right, And also you end up in a relationship, where you have to constantly watch yourself as not to trigger the next wave of criticism. Number 5, guilt tripping into intimacy. Now, true intimacy is built on choice, okay? It's a choice. It's about two people meeting each other willingly with respect and love and care. But in toxic dynamics, intimacy can be forced through guilt tripping instead of connection, okay? It can be a manipulation tactics. If you really love me, you'll do this for me. Or I guess you don't care about me or my needs at all. What should be a mutually safe space becomes a performance under pressure. And it will leave you feeling used and ashamed and resentful instead of close to your partner. That sentence of, if you really love me, you would, is like, it creates a huge allergic reaction within me. This is not closeness, it's coercion. Next, minimizing your feelings. So you try to address a problem, express a hurt, and what you get is, why can't you just get over it? Stop being emotional. I was just joking. Can't you take a joke? You always blow everything out of proportion. You're too sensitive for your own good, and so on. These words, may sound like nothing in the moment. Like maybe if you try and say something once and then they invalidate you, they dismiss it. Don't worry about it. It's okay. You'll be fine. And they change the subject. I was in that situation. It was daily for me. That situation was daily for me growing up. And it was like, okay, I'll just go along with the new subject they want to talk about, and I'll smile and I'll pretend to go along with it. But deep down inside, when I came home, the anxiety would get so strong, and I'd be like, I can't, I can't communicate my feelings with these people. And then, the ruminations start, right? Thinking over and over again about how we can, address the problem. And it can make you so sick. And over time, you basically just stop expressing yourself, because you learn that your inner world has no place in the relationship. And you accept this. You learn to accept this. The next one is excusing cruelty as stress. And this happens when insults or outbursts are brushed aside with excuses and rationalizations. I was just tired. I was having a bad day. You know how stressed I get when. And this cruelty starts becoming normal. Oh, they always have a bad day. They always have an outburst. Now, there's nothing wrong with expressing anger or stress. In fact, I talk about emotions a lot, and in all my videos, and emotions are a natural part of being human. You can't not feel them. It's normal to feel anger, and to, when somebody does something to you. Anger is actually healthy because it helps you set boundaries. But the problem is how you use it. If the partner feels anger and they let it out on you, instead of letting it out healthily. Okay, I'm very angry right now. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna step away. I'm gonna take some space. I don't feel good. I feel really angry right now. And then they talk about the problem with the person without attacking them or without using them as a punching bag. There's healthy ways to express your anger, but when that anger is consistently expressed in a way that hurts you, this is when it's really problematic and toxic. Stress, a person's life history, is never a good excuse, for them to treat you badly. It's just not. This leads me to my next point, alternating cruelty with kindness. This is where emotional abuse can get so confusing, because it's not just constant cruelty. It's cruelty interrupted by sudden kindness and beautiful moments that you hold on to. This is a form of intermittent reinforcement, because you naturally try to restore peace and harmony in a relationship. So when they lash out, when they mistreat you, and then suddenly a few hours later they say, hey, let's not fight, I love you, don't be upset, your brain will start clinging to those rare, beautiful moments of warmth, hoping that they last. But those good moments are actually what keep you trapped in this cycle of abuse. A scapegoated child who's constantly yelled at and criticized, might be taken out for ice cream later by his family, right? As if nothing happened. So the brain learns to cling to those brief moments of relief in the middle of intense pain. Okay, we're having ice cream, everything is good now, my parents love me. But then the cycles repeat themselves. So they're abused, and then the parent does something nice. They're abused, and then the parent does something nice again. This is the foundation for trauma bonding. Where the child grows up expecting that love and care comes with a dose of pain and manipulation and abuse. And as adults, when we go through this kind of upbringing, we can unconsciously seek, relationships that mimic these patterns because they feel familiar to us. And we can also tolerate these patterns because that's what we learned when we were young. We were conditioned to believe that this is what relationships look like, that this is normal. And abusers will always try to use the good moments to outweigh the bad, as if it's some kind of scale. So yes, they abused you, but look at the nice things they did for you, And narcissistic family systems, this is so common for the scapegoated child. Yes, your narcissistic parent did hurt you, but you only have one parent. And if you don't make it work, you'll regret it, right? Yes, your parent did, do this terrible thing to you, but they cooked for you, and they did your laundry, and they gave you a roof, so maybe you should just stoically take it and continue taking their abuse behind closed doors when nobody is looking. If you don't make it work, you'll regret it, right? This is a tactic that shifts responsibility from the abuser onto the victim, making the scapegoat carry the burden of someone else's, abuse and bad behavior. You become responsible for their bad behavior. The next point is using your insecurities against you. Now, people get into fights, people get mad, things happen. When a person takes your vulnerabilities, keeps them stored in their mind, and later throws them back at you with the purpose of shaming you so that you do what they want you to do, this is manipulation. And intimacy becomes dangerous. And this will often show up strategically during arguments. So you confide in your partner or your parent about something that you're self-conscious about, something that happened to you, something that hurt you. And, let's say you got into a fight with a friend and you grieved about the loss. And a few days later, your narcissistic parent or partner wants you to do something that you're not comfortable doing. Or maybe they bait you into having a reaction because of their need for supply, what happens is they will use that against you. Oh, that's why your friend left you. That's why no one loves you. That's why, you'll never succeed. That's why whatever you told them, that's why blah, blah, blah. And the message sinks in that being open, is unsafe. And this becomes a trauma adaptation that's carried into future relationships. So you can actually start to isolate yourself completely and live your life in fear of creating connections with healthy people, with healthy and safe people. And number 10 is convincing you that you're nothing without them. At first, it can sneak in. It might start with your partner being helpful, making suggestions because they care. Oh, maybe you should wear this instead. This doesn't look good on you. Maybe you should reduce your hours at work. Trust me, I can take care of you. I'll give you a ride, I just want to make sure you're okay. And, slowly they start discouraging you from doing things without them. And over time, their helpful little suggestions turn into insistence. And this is the key point really that you have to notice, is when suggestions become insistence. Oh, you need help because clearly you don't know what you're doing. And slowly they begin taking over all the decisions in your life. What you wear, where you go, who you see, how you spend your free time. You start feeling like you can't do anything without them because they are slowly conditioning you to doubt your own judgment, question your choices, and you are conditioned to rely on their approval, even in the smallest decisions. So what starts as helpful guidance can become control disguised as care, making you feel completely incapable of functioning on your own, independently. You have to keep asking them for approval because you don't trust yourself anymore. Then the comments escalate into overt control. You'd never survive without me. Okay, who else would put up with you? Okay, what are you talking about? You're being stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay, you're wasting your time. You'll never succeed. And this pattern creates dependency rooted in fear. This fear of leaving, the fear makes leaving feel more terrifying than staying because you don't trust yourself anymore. You don't think you can do anything on your own anymore. Even if staying is destroying you, what's out there feels terrifying because you become so disconnected from yourself. Emotional abuse chips away at your sense of self, your confidence, your ability to trust your own feelings. It can make you feel like you're always wrong, like your needs don't matter, like you couldn't survive on your own. And over time, it can leave you doubting your worth and questioning reality itself. But recognizing these patterns is the first step towards reclaiming your power and rebuilding trust in yourself. And if you do recognize these patterns, know this: what you're experiencing is real. Stop doubting yourself. Trust yourself. Start honoring your feelings, setting boundaries, and protecting your emotional space. And if leaving is not immediately possible, learn about strategies like the gray rock and the yellow rock methods, and put as much focus as you can on self-care and a safe exit plan. As a scapegoat, or someone who grew up in a dysfunctional environment, I can tell you that it's absolutely normal for you to question yourself. I often wondered whether what I was doing what I was going through was really abuse. And maybe I was really, really, really the devil child that they always told me that I was, I truly felt like I was evil and horrible. And I lived my life in shame. But the thing is, you're not that person, and I'm not that person. You're a survivor, and your feelings and experiences are valid. You are somebody that matters. And we all deserve emotional safety and respect in a relationship, regardless of who the relationship is with, okay? We all deserve the freedom to live without manipulation, without constant guilt, without constant shame, and without being told that our pain doesn't matter in the bigger picture of things. Yes, it does matter, okay? In fact, nothing matters more than your emotional safety in any relationship. You have the right to walk away from any relationship that is abusive, including if the abuse comes from a parent or a family member. And I've learned the hard way that sometimes the family you need is the one that you create for yourself. And sometimes that may mean being alone for a while. And being alone isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can give you the space to prioritize what truly matters to you and to focus on rediscovering yourself and figuring out who you are for the first time, For a long, long time, my only family was a cat that I rescued. And for many years, I was completely alone. And it took me a long, long time to rebuild trust and connection. This is a process that takes a long time, so be patient with yourself. Healing begins when you recognize these patterns for what they truly are and give yourself permission to prioritize your own well-being. You protect yourself. So remember the mantra, I love myself, I trust myself. And thank you for tuning in. And check out my videos on gray rocking if you would like my perspective on the subject. I hope this helped you, and I'll see you soon.